In this lesson, I want to show you guys how I create custom brushes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into my ZBrush here, and I'm just going to select a cube. I'm going to go edit, and it doesn't matter which side you're working with, but now I'm going to go and hold Shift and Control. Just going to go into my brushes here, and I'm going to select the clip brush, and I'm just going to clip the top that way. So I got my little plane. I want a bit of thickness for the Dynamesh. So next thing I want to do is I just want to make the Polymesh 3D. So I'm just going to click the button here. Here's my Dynamesh options appeared now, and I'm just going to click it. I'm going to go into my wireframe. Just going to make sure that I have plenty of geometry, and I just want to add a little bit more. So I'm just going to add maybe one more just to go over 1,000,000 here. So here I got my mesh ready for sculpting, and what I want to do is I just want to show you the brush we'll be making, which is pretty much this little chip brush. I use this quite often to just break the surface a little bit when I sculpt my rocks. So what I want to do is I just want to select the standard brush, click S and find standard brush. Here we go. And I'm just going to start sculpting it a little bit. Just going to start by sculpting sort of like a little circle. Something like this will do. Next thing you want to do is you want to select the AJ Polish brush. And I'm just going to start by trying to get these corners slightly less soft. Just going to go in here and try to get those in a bit more. I'm holding Alt and sometimes inside, and sometimes I just go in and without, and just trying to get the mesh quite perfect here. As you notice, I created this alpha here, which with a square, so it's very useful to add a square alpha to your brush. It just adds this little extra sort of chippy feel to it. So I'm just gonna keep sculpting here. And I think the shape here is quite good now. So what I want to do now is I just want to select the AJ Polish brush and just go in and try to sort of like polish it out a little bit. Here we go. Just maybe a little bit more chips on the edges here. And you can always change your focal shift here and get the squareness a bit more round to avoid the artifacts. Here we go. It looks about right. Now the last thing I want to do is just want to select the planar brush and just gonna straighten the surface on the top here. And just gonna select the Orbs Crack brush and just gonna add a little bit of chipping on the edges. Before I do that, I'm just gonna go into the stroke, lazy mouse, and just gonna add the lazy mouse radius. By default, Orbs brush does not use lazy mouse, but I prefer it with, and the cracks will be much straighter. So how I create them is I sort of push harder at the start, then sort of go lighter in the end. Here we go. Just gonna try get cracks a bit more deeper here. So I'm gonna go back into AJ brush with my square alpha. Just gonna zoom in a little bit and get those corners chipped a little bit more. Here we go. Now what I usually do as well is I would hold Shift, and as you notice, by default it tends to smooth, but if I select any other brush while I'm holding Shift, now instead of having smooth on my shift, I have a planar brush. So I'm just gonna keep it there. So whenever I switch, I can use planar brush as well. And I'm gonna go a bit more deeper into planar brush modeling technique in further lesson down. But for now, I'm just gonna decrease the intensity a little bit. I'm just gonna try get these shapes a bit more angular, more stylized. Go. And it's just gonna look out a little bit. Looks pretty cool to me. Just want to clean the inside because you wouldn't have the crack going all the way here. So let's just select H polish brush now and just try to polish these out a little bit. The last thing I want to do is I just want to go in and select pinch brush with quite a big radius here. I'm just going to try pinch the edges off a little bit. And here as well. And again, just going to select planar brush and gonna hold shift, and here we go. So here I got my little chip. As you can see, there's a little artifact here. So if you get planar brush and you hold Alt, it will fill that in as well. So here we go. So next thing I want to do is I want to convert this sculpt into an alpha. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to my tools here, and I'm going to find a MRGBZ grabber. So before you select it, you want to zoom into your sculpt as close as you can, but make sure that you have a flat surface around it inside the frame. And then I'm just going to select the MRGB grabber here. I'm going to click switch, so this tool is no longer workable. And I'm just going to select. If you hold space, you can move the select bar around. Here we go. It doesn't have to be a perfect square. Alpha could be any size you would like. So here I got it grabbed, and it should be in my alpha right here. I'm just going to create new document now, and I'm going to create a sphere, and I'm just going to convert it to Polymesh 3D, divide it a few times. Just going to create new document. Go edit. Here I got my sphere. And so to start a new brush, I usually start with a standard. So I'll just call ST. I got standard here. Make the size a bit bigger. And I'm going to select my alpha. So first thing you want to do is you want to go in. As you can see, my borders are white. And in ZBrush, white usually means higher. So what I want to do is I want to invert it so that now it's transparent. So it only will actually use the inside of the brush as the height. So then next thing I want to do is I want to switch from freehand to either drag rectangle or drop dot, whichever you prefer, but for this lesson I'm going to use drag rectangle. And as you can see, if I'll draw it now, it will draw it inside out because we inverted the alpha. But what I usually do is I will just go in and select Z sub, Control Z here, and here we go. And by using the intensity, we can make it much deeper or less deeper. Sort of play around with the depth, see which one you sort of feel much more closer to, which one you like more. And just gonna make something around that big. Now next thing I want to do is just want to sort of play around with this brush on the sphere. Here we go. And now what I'll do is I'll take this print screen, and what I want to do is I want to go into my brush preset folder, which is located in Pixologic, ZBrush, whichever ZBrush you have, Z Startup Brush Presets. And what you're going to find here is the brush icon sample. So I'm just going to open that in Photoshop, and this is what we're going to have. So we got a black layer on the back and this sort of sphere layer on the front. So what I want to do is I just want to paste this screenshot from here. So let's do it again. Screen. And it will be quite large, so what you want to do is you just want to drag it out. And just try to frame the actual sphere in the middle there to the same place where the sample sphere is. So maybe a bit less big. Right about here is fine. It doesn't have to match perfectly. So next thing I want to do is I just want to hold Control and click on the layer here. So as you can see, it's slightly different scale, so let's just take this one again and just make it slightly bigger. Just gonna try frame it right where it's supposed to be. Here you go. So I'm just gonna hold Control again, click. This time it fits quite nice to me. Just gonna mask that. Next thing you want to do is just gonna grab this layer. I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna delete this mask as well, and just gonna double click and rename it to layer 2. And what I want to do is I just want to save that as, and you just save it to any directory you would like. So here we go, and name it whatever sort of name you would like to give to your brush. So I'm gonna call it AJ Chip 02, because I already have the first one. And next thing, I want to just come back to ZBrush now. Go to brush, select icon, and just gonna go to the same folder where I saved my brush here. And I'm gonna select my AJ Chip 2. And now, as you can see, my icon is the same as my mesh here. So now I can add it to my library or do whatever I want with it. So the last thing you want to do is you just want to save your brush before you close ZBrush. So if you're gonna go in here and just save it AJ Chip 02, and we're good to go. In the next lesson, we're gonna bring in our base mesh from the first lessons and gonna start sculpting it up.